Welcome back to the Lemmings Reunion creator commentary, and we are onto Ultraviolence 11. It's closing time at the mall, and I think, yes. When does this episode? I think the episode is coming out right after Christmas, or even in the new year. Definitely after Christmas. So, well. So the malls are open again, let's say. There it is. This level also had quite a lot of backwards. That's why you see all these one-way arrows and the, let's say, custom starting area. We assign 2 bashers here. This is also possible with just 1 basher, but then you have to time it that the last lemming will just make it through here, and well, you need 2 lemmings at the bottom, and the 2 bashers is the easiest way to do this, but well, you can also time the last lemming, but that's totally up to you. He will bash through here, so the crowd is delayed, and we've got 1 additional lemming here. We've got quite a lot of walking distance to walk here. This guy will sacrifice himself with a bomber. These 2 will be our worker lemmings. They gain floaters. 1 will patch up this gap, bash through here. The other one will come just in time to create a little platform for the crowd. That's why we need all the space here, because he had to walk the whole distance down here. Now our 2 floaters gain climbers. We also got a 3rd one. We've got 3 climbers, 2 athletes. First one needs to sacrifice himself so they can get through the top. And we've got 2 miners and a digger left. We can spend the digger here to create a little ledge, as in one level in the previous ranks. So he turns around while he still makes a pass to the exit. Now all that's left to do for him is to mine out the crowd with the 2 miners. These 2 steel blocks are also a backward prevention method, where you simply would use the extra builder I left there for the start, so that it wouldn't be as precise, so you can't simply just mine and bash through all of this. You have to use your 2 miners here. And that's it. Everyone can walk to the exit. Ultraviolence 12, the Bubble Cave. Okay. So this level didn't give much, a lot of problems to people. I think it was quite obvious what to do. Still wouldn't call it an easy level, but let's say it's a bit more of an obvious one. We've got 1 of everything. The blocker will be used here, so the crowd won't go into the suckers. The digger will be used here, letting the last lemming turn around, and the digger will continue thanks to these pipes. So this lemming can go down all the way to here. He will be our athlete, and he will also be our sacrifice. So the crowd can walk through here. This part was also way more difficult in Lemon Eye, as you have to time this bomber very precise. Now these guys can bash to the left, while he prepares the gap here. The basher will also release a blocker, and the miner can be used here. So yes, the basher, it's basically all about connecting destructive skills. The digger has to dig through here and through here, thanks to the pipes. And the basher has to bash also this crowd out while freeing a blocker. Yes, and the level pretty much fell into place because, well, the digger part is simply obvious by design. And Electric Prison. This was also one of the levels, that was one of the first levels I created for this pack. Had quite a few alternative routes, let's say. But I think I let most slide. Well, we've got traps here, as you can see on because of these buttons. So to get past these, we use diggers here and bash under them, while the quartz will be contained in the digger pits, so we can patch this gap up without getting interrupted. Now the digger will be turned into a basher that will arrive later here, while one lemming facing to the left will mine down, so we can get this crowd up. These guys will simply, well, be dropped into the exit. And we have to make a new basher tunnel here, so, well, they don't go all splat. Okay, and the only thing that's left here is to mine out the crowd at the bottom and patch up this hole. And that's already it. So basically the main thing you have to consider here is managing all those crowds by simply preparing the route, get around those traps, patch up the gap in the middle. And there are quite a few ways to do this. They are indeed similar, but this level has a lot of variations. Okay, the next one, Neuschwanstein. This is named after the famous castle in Germany. So, of course it's made in the castle tile set. This also remembers a bit on the cascade level, as we've got this long walk up with a dead drop, but again we have to save everyone as in the level in the third rank. We let 2 lemmings pass and then block, having 2 floaters. 1 lemming will turn around and prepare a platform. The other one must get ahead, but well, be a little bit let's say he must be very careful not to use up all of his destructive skills, so we use a digger and a basher here instead of using, let's say, 2 bashers in the miner. We need those. 3 bridges are enough for this platform and he will turn around. Also he needs the lemmings that got ahead must to prepare this bridge here. 3 builders are enough, so we've got 2 worker lemmings. And now we must prepare 2 things. First one is this digger down here. The crowd has to go down in some way, and here everything is fire, let's say. The other guy will dig down to the left and prepare it for the from the other side, as we've got one-way arrows here. Also we have to dig in such a way that we can release the digger with a blocker. This guy will now bash through here, and before he finishes, this guy needs to patch up this gap, because if we build from the left then we will have another gap here, so the left guy has to help the right guy and the right guy has to help the left guy. Now we can simply release the crowd with the miner. Not only release the crowds, but also release the blocker. And that's it. The other thing you have to be careful is, well, you have to consider the splat heights here. It's quite tight. You only got a few pixels of leverage. Okay, the next one, Night of Nights. Okay, and we have to use another builder-miner combi here again. But first we must dig down here in such a way that this lemming can later climb up. He will prepare the bridge we need for the miner bridge combo. And in just the right moment, this guy will start to mine. While this also provides a very good holding area for the lemmings. So this guy will also land on the steel here safely, so they are all contained down here, while this lemming can go up ahead and bash. Also it's important since the basher lands into this area, so he can move on and we don't have to assign another one. We send one of our lemmings back forward again, the climber, the other 2 will follow soon. So this guy goes the normal non-climber path. We only got 3 climbers, and well, It is those two lemmings and the one we sent after the first one. And yes, this climber has to help this lemming, otherwise he will either drown or have to use two builders for this gap, and we cannot allow that to happen. Now we send the last two. This guy will patch up this gap, while the climber will prepare the last one. And yes, now we have to mine from the right to the left, and also provide a safe fall. For that we will build up to this location here, because we need to turn around and also create this platform. And well, if you want to mine from up here, because you can't mine from down there, you can't just dig down and then mine later, you will be too low. So we turn this guy around, then dig, also dig in such a way we can release him with a blocker again and create this platform. And as he was facing to the left, he can still get up and mine down for the last guy. So that's the tricky part here. Must realize that you need to turn around in order to do all of the things. Creating this platform with the digger, cancel the digger, and then also mine down to free the last guy who isn't a climber. And that's it. They can all walk to the exit. And we've got the 3 seals of Memphis, which also had quite a few backwards. There it is. Okay, the first part is, let's say, a bit scripted. Those two guys will build at the exact same time. Well, not exact, but will build very close time frames together. So they seal up this gap and simply go on with the work, let's say. This guy has to dig away this little pillar here. This has all been made into steel because of backwards. So he will still walk to the right, but the lemming who got past will turn around to the left. And this is also orchestrated in such a way that we can build this whole builder gap sealment once again. Because if you use 2 builders here, you will end up here and, well, trapping yourself, and you cannot allow that to happen. Okay, now we assign everyone a climber. This guy has enough time to patch his gap. Also, this little edge here will be useful in delaying this lemming. And for each of the 3 seals here, you will have to sacrifice a lemming. In order to break the seals of Memphis, you have to sacrifice lemmings. That's why we only allow to save 1. These 2 are a bit close together, so in order to patch this gap, the second guy has to dig here, so he can fall down and climb back up again. Now he will be the one to be sacrificed for the next gap. And now we need 2 lemmings to get ahead, but to get through this seal. But the upper route is only for the 1 floater we have. The first guy will simply bridge over this water pit. He will be our floater, while the second one will be stalled by digging down here. This guy can get ahead. Also prepare this part so this guy can climb up later here. Now he bashes, and he needs to come here before the digger does. And we also interrupt the basher so he can turn around with the last builder we've got. And now we've got 2 lemmings, and the 1 climber will be actually the guy who gets saved, where the athlete will sacrifice himself for the greater good. And that's it. And we're heading on to the next one right away, Generation Gap. Okay, we've got 1 crowd trapped in here with 1 arrows. We will have to save them later. And this group is also right away in quite a lot of trouble, as we've got a splatfall here. And we must work very quickly to get them to, well, not to splat anymore. The first guys will be saved via floaters. This one will bomb here, so we can get guys up to this area to save them. One guy will mine down here and prepare a bridge across this gap. As this crowd won't get up to here very easily. They will need to get over this gap. One guy will also walk to the left and prepare this gap. And now we can make a bridge under the hatch here, so those guys will walk right to the white group and help free them. Now we've got two guys on the left side. One will again sacrifice himself to get past this pillar. The group can be stored down here for the moment. The first lemming don't need to mine and bash to free those. We made a little sacrifice here. Now we simply dig down to the right and mine down here so the crowd can later get up. And he will build right to the exit and bomb at this location, as we will need the miner and the basher for this part. He will again turn around here, he will make a hole, but he will also die. But that's okay, we can lose the bomber and the miner. He bashes and shuts away, so he releases the crowd here and also breaks through to the right crowd. And yes, everyone can walk to the exit now. Basically, this level is all about getting the upper crowd to safety very quickly before, well, too many lemmings splat. And, well, you have to do quite a few other things simultaneously. And we're moving on to Ultra Violence 18, coming through. This level also had quite a few backwards, to the point where I even accept some alternatives that are basically the same. We tuck in the crowd with two blockers. One guy will patches up this gap, while we have four lemmings go ahead here. Yes, and he will now release all of the crowd and the blockers and start to bash down here. We will send 3 climbers up ahead. Dig here, so those two guys turn around. The digger later needs to be rescued, because, well, he will simply continue. And we prepare 2 bridges, so the basher will continue on. And the basher will also be the guy who saves the digger. So there are alternatives where this blocker here will be swapped out. You simply send all of the guys ahead, and the digger will then be stopped with the blocker, so the basher can release him later. So yes, that's one alternative. But basically the main thing you have to see here is that the basher has to do all of the things. Getting through this builder bridge here and removing all of the obstacles, but also freeing all of the blockers. And the next one, AM. Okay. Difficulty in this level is that you have 5 hatches, very spread out, and, well, you need to realize that you can't get up here by simply getting up the middle part. It's not possible. Okay, these guys will be rescued the following ways. He will simply mine to the steel, so he turns around and also creates a turning around area for these guys. This guy will bash under the pillars to release the white guy. He will simply build over the fire pit, and he will build over this gap. So the lemmings are safe for now. This guy will dig here onto the steels and create a little holding area here. He will also become a climber to get up here. As well, we can't get up through the middle, but we can get up through here, through the ceiling. Now our two-builder guy will become a miner, while he prepares the going up part for the left part. Turns around on the steel. We can later join these groups by simply digging. Oh, he still has to patch up this gap. And yes, as I said, we simply dig down into the miner tunnel. And that's why we need this holding area for the crowd and also for the climber to turn around. Got one builder left to get up here, and the last basher will be used to get through the ceiling to the exit. So that's it. So you basically have to realize you can't go through the middle and you have to get through the top. And while he is bashing through all of this, I will maybe talk a little bit why the level is called AM. So it's basically a little reference to the short story by Harlan Ellison, I think he was named. And the short story is called I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, which I very much enjoyed. It's about humans creating a supercomputer that does all of the very complex world wars for them. And at some point the supercomputer gained consciousness and decided to wipe out all of humanity. All but 5 of them, which and the supercomputer will make these 5 humans that he let survive. Basically, he made them immortal, renew their bodies, gave them food and stuff to basically keep them alive, but he will also torture them to eternity. And the short story is about those 5 humans who are being tortured for, I think, at the point in the story for 109 years. And well, they are tortured all day, deformed by the master computer, and they cannot die. The computer doesn't allow them to die. So, and the short story simply ended with them. They are on a mission to get a can of food. Because, well, the food the machine provides isn't very tasty, let's say. And so they get all the way through a painful adventure to this can the machine provided. And just at the can they realize they don't have the tools to open it. So they can't get the food. And this, of course, drives some of them, well, even more insane, let's say. And one of the persons realized at that point the machine wasn't watching. Like, he was always watching, but in that time, as some of the insane ones, well, they were battling and hurting each other, he realized the machine wasn't interfering, so it wasn't watching at the time, and he used that moment to kill his 4 companions and to finally release and redeem their souls. But he wants to also kill himself, but then the machine interferes. And the machine, well, deforms him a bit more. That's what this little creature here shall represent. He deforms him in such a way that, well, he's just a slimy creature lurking around. He don't have the ability to hurt himself anymore. And well, he's the only soul that will survive in all of eternity, sadly. It's a very dark story, let's say. But, well, it does provide a little material to think over, and I wanted to make a little level about the scenario. As you said, as you saw in the middle, I created a little podest representing the machine and well, a little monument for the last surviving human there. But onto more brighter levels, Lems go cliff jumping, and this is multitasking galore. I will have to pause quite a bit here. Okay, the first comms will be first served. And we will begin with 2 lemmings going down to this part and patching up those 4 gaps. Now we're already here. This guy has to dig down all of the way and prepare this part. While this guy will dig down at the very edge here. So we can later release him with a blocker. Okay, and we also do this on all the other sides. They all go down, all of the way down. We have the possibility to release them with blockers, and they keep the crowds from falling down the long shaft and split. So these 2 guys will work in unison to patch up these gaps. And yes, and you probably see we don't need a guy for this for the middle part on the right side. We do need him on the left side though. These guys will have a little detour through here. They will be fine. Now our 2 floaters will prepare the left side here and the right side here of the one-way arrows. And yes, I release that digger with a blocker here because we want to turn blockers, diggers into miners later, because we need to ensure the crowd goes left. So as this digger was facing right, we need to free him with a blocker and then mine down to the left. We also need to do this here. Yes, as this guy was facing left, he would mine them out to the left into the gaps. We cannot allow that. The floaters have prepared this the sides first, turned around and the other standing one-way arrow, which will be removed now on the left side. Now these guys will be mined out. They will simply fall out perfectly. We don't need a miner here. We mine them out to the left. The first guy, well, this was the digger. The digger comes first, while these guys are still on their little detour. So the digger can prepare the basher here. And yes, that's it. So basically you have to do a lot of multitasking with the diggers in the first part, but after that it's just realizing where to dig, where to stop the diggers, where to mine, and which bashers need to come first. That's it. Those little detours those guys take was all safe. They don't fall into any holes. And yes, that's it. And next time we will continue with Ultra Violence 21. Until then, have a nice day.